Imagine a world where your social media account is attached to your social security number. This information is collected. This information is gathered 24/7 to generate your global compliance score, which can be looked at as a representation of your overall social moral standard in accordance to what they deem to be right and wrong, of course. They use this social score to dictate what jobs you will have or even where you can go, similar to your already existing credit score. They have your facial structure in a profile, your eyes, your fingerprints, and even your DNA. To go along with this, they roll out the CBDCs, the central banking digital currencies. Now they have complete control over every aspect of your life, even down to the currency that you think that you possess. Imagine a world where you open up your phone to make a post telling young men to be strong, be smart, set standards, and don't do just whatever you're told or believe whatever they tell you or believe what they tell you about the past. College is a scam. The money isn't what you think it is, and the corporations run the world. You post this video on social media, you go outside to try to buy groceries, you go outside to try to buy a coffee to sit down and do some work, but you realize that your bank account has been frozen. Your video is now blocked, social media accounts banned, you're arrested for spreading false news and or a hate crime. Then AI judges and sentences you. Today is the day that you will be set free. Today is the day that you will be given a choice. You will be exposed to the new truths of this world. You will be given information that everyone, is so blind to. You will be given information that will entail the great escape, the full guide to what I believe is coming, to what I believe we see. And I have to say I believe because they hate it whenever you tell this truth and don't put it that way, because it allows them to say that you're spreading fake or false news. But everything that I put in here, I give source. Everything that I say is nothing that's of my idea at all. It's not my opinion at all. In fact, this is simply information that has been gathered and a simple representation of what the world is currently consisting of in this societal construct that we are currently existing in. And I'm going to explain to you guys why, as young men, we have to escape this. Why, as young men, it is your responsibility to escape this, and what we're going to do in the face of all this. But we must first understand what it is that we are up against. So I introduce all of you and I welcome all of you to the Great Escape. The first concept that we must dive into is techno-feudalism. Now, what is techno-feudalism? I know I'm not the person that came up with this word. I'm sure many of you guys, or at least I would hope that some of you guys have at least heard of what the term techno-feudalism even is. Now, techno-feudalism is what capitalism has transformed into. I'm not the first person to propose this idea. In fact, there is a book on what capitalism has morphed into, techno-feudalism, and you guys should read that if you get a chance. But there's really no need, because I'm going to break down everything that you need to know about it within 5 minutes right here. So I want you to understand that for capitalism to be real, the money must be real. Now, I got this quote from Tristan Tate, as you guys can see. I give my sources, I give credit to those that said things, because I want my credit, so you know how that goes. But I want you to understand that techno-feudalism is not far from the original feudalism. So we must first understand what feudalism actually was. Feudalism itself essentially is a form of slavery, where you have the very top being the kings, queens, and you have the religion, then you have the nobles, knights, then you have everyone else that is working, that never owns anything, doesn't even own the land they farm, doesn't own anything. They simply get crumbs in exchange for holding the rest of the society up, and they were essentially controlled. And many people think that feudalism died out. Many people also think that the British Empire died out. These things never died. Slavery never ended. It just transformed into a box that you cannot see. Instead of being in a cage, you're now in a rather like a fish tank, or rather, like an open zoo area where you don't realize that you're being utilized for the benefit of that 1%, but you still are. You have the illusion of inclusion, and we'll get into that, here momentarily. But I need us to understand, right, how feudalism works, how this techno-feudalistic society holds you back, and why it is a problem. It's a problem because, as you can see here, we have central banks at the top big banks, corporate elite, elected officials, top bureaucrats, top professionals. You have this societal construct that was not created for our benefit. You have this societal construct that was created to go against you as a young man, and we're diving into areas where it was bad enough as it is. But imagine a world where it is techno. Imagine a world where central bankers, big bank, all of that, they're still very much in control, but the top elite people, the top elite corporations rather, are big tech. Why is that? Why am I saying that big tech is at the top? Because think about it. Capitalism is what? Capitalism is a free market. I want everyone to get a pen and paper out, write down notes, take your phone out just to write down notes, and I want you to understand that, big tech, these corporations are in control of everything because capitalism is a free market. Write that down. But how can we say we have a free market or exist in a free market where, number one, the money isn't real? How can we exist in a free market when the money is not even backed of anything of value? Have no control over the currency, have no control over what is actually real, what is actually valuable. Then in addition to that, now we have big tech where in order for me to even sell a product, I got to do what? I have to be on social media. You have to be on social media to be a successful business in today's world. Social media is not owned by us. Social media is owned by corporations. They decide who gets to say what on the platform. They decide the regulations and policies. They decide what to do with that data and information. They decide, even when you run ads, they decide who gets to see what ad. That's not a free market. That is so far, we've veered so far off from the reality of a free market that it's not even funny, because for it to be a free market, things must be open and free on a level playing field for everyone. I'm a believer in capitalism, but it can't be capitalism if the money isn't real. And it can't be capitalism if you have to use social media to compete in today's world, and this social media is owned by a corporation. They dictate what goes on within the confines of that platform because you have no ownership in that platform. And with this platform that everyone has, right, we just saw bills getting passed. What are they trying to do? They're trying to ban TikTok. But if you go inside these different bills and you read what they're saying, you would think it just applies to TikTok by the headlines. But when you do the information, right, you will see that it applies to all social media. They want control over all social media. We are not far off from them attaching your social media account to your social security number. So I want you to understand that for it to be a free market, for it to be capitalism, for it to be, the way that these entrepreneur gurus say, social media can't be in the equation, and yet it is. These big corporations are running this world. And we'll get into that shortly as well. But I want you to understand in this techno-feudalistic chapter right here within this guide, I need you to understand that they do not care about you. You are at the bottom of this. You are not this 98. You are here in this 98%. I don't even care how much money you have. How much money you have is irrelevant to where you stand in the standing of this. You see, the Great Escape is designed for us to get outside of this societal construct. You see, I'm not proposing that we are going to destroy this or rise within this. We can't do nothing with this. It was here before we were born. It was a multi-generational plan that they have. They're already steps ahead anyway, but we don't have to conform to this. We have the opportunity right now. I truly believe that every single one of us have the opportunity to choose to exist outside the confines of this. Make the escape from this before it is too late. See, I want everyone to understand that you can escape techno-feudalism. Techno-feudalism will not be everyone's fate. And so the reason why, we're calling it techno-feudalism is because look at this here. Now, when we look at feudalism, you got the serfs, and or the peasants that, give, they don't own anything. They farm the land. They give all the proceeds of that to someone else, who actually owns the land. And, it gets deeper than that when we get into the church state and, the top of it, all of that type of stuff. But you don't even need to understand that. You see, I'm giving you guys just what you need to understand to spark that truth-seeking spirit within you and that warrior spirit for you to want to get up and do something about this, for us to collectively to do something about this and step outside of this game that's being played on us, because it's a cold game that's being played on you right now. And there's no difference in this right here. Paying taxes. But we'll get into the money aspect of it here shortly. I want you to understand that governments do not run this world. Governments do not run this world. Corporations do. These corporations run this world. Why is that? Corporations like what you see here, that people are, damn near afraid to even talk about or bring up. Corporations like that can't even be sued. Legally cannot even be sued. There's no legal course of action when it comes to these big corporations like that. And these corporations are what's running the world. We have stuff like BlackRock. We have stuff like this right here. We have stuff like the Federal Reserve, which itself is essentially a corporation. The entire government structure itself is a corporation. I want everyone to understand that. See, you got to step outside the confines of what they told you to think and understand that these corporations are the enemy. These big corporations and institutions are the enemy. Just like they try to tell you to go get a piece of paper and, spend your time to get this piece of paper, use that piece of paper to get more pieces of paper to still never own anything. It's absurd what they're proposing. The path for us young men to take is absolutely absurd. Now, I need everyone to understand, right, that when it comes to techno-feudalism, that extends far beyond even your ability to sell, or say that we live in a capitalistic society. That extends onto what it really becomes techno-feudalism, because what you think you do for entertainment, you're being controlled. You see, people spend all day, right? Let's lay out the average life of what it is they want for us to do, right? They want us to go to institution, to become further indoctrinated, to get a piece of paper. You take this piece of paper, which has damn near no value right now because everyone has one for the most part. You take this piece of paper and you go use this piece of paper to still compete to work for someone else. So after you're working for someone else, they give you in exchange for that piece of paper that qualified you to come work for them, which really just tells them to the level to which you've been indoctrinated. You now take that piece of paper to get more pieces of paper, which they call currency. You take this currency to do what? You take this currency to go get house and food. A house that you'd never really own, on land you never really own, and then also to get food. And then also, what else do you do with it? You got to pay them some of it back after they give it to you. They break you off again. So let's really think about this path that they have laid out for us, and how does that seem like a desirable life to anyone other than the people that benefit from it, anyone other than the boss, anyone other than the one who is getting their dream built. You see, I need everyone to understand that if you don't decide to build your own dream, if you don't decide to build your own path and or take an alternate path, you will be put to work building someone else's. That's a fact. You will be put to work. You will be worked. And that's the reality of this. That is exactly what's happening. That's what's been happening. And very few benefit from this societal structure. Very few benefit. But you have to learn how to think outside the confines of what they've taught us to think, and look at stuff for what it really is, and decide whether you want to conform or not. Because even what you think that you're doing, right, to complete that lifetime scale right there. So let's say you get home from the job and or your enslavement for a few hours before you got to go back in the morning. And what do? The average man, they're going to sit down and they're going to open up Netflix, open up Snapchat, open up Instagram, open up YouTube. Well, hold on a minute. They're going to watch this stuff. Oh, I'm getting entertained. I'm relaxing. Oh, I'm on social media having fun with my friends. Or they go out to bars, or they go out to party, or they, do whatever. Oh, I'm having fun. Whole time, someone else is profiting off of that. Netflix is profiting off of you watching their stuff. TikTok profiting. Instagram profiting, Snapchat profiting, all of the stuff that you think you're even doing for your own entertainment benefits these corporations. They've structured your whole life and you don't even know it. They have planned out your entire life and you don't even know it. You've been worked from the time that your eyes are open to pretty much even when they're closed. You're probably still playing Netflix or probably still, streaming something while you're sleeping. You're still making the money. If you guys don't, wake up and see what it is that's really going on here, this is not a conspiracy theory. This is not something far-fetched. This is the reality. That you are being worked 24/7 and you don't even understand or realize it. And you'll live your whole life and never build anything of your own. Never have anything that's actually valuable. Never own anything. And that's a shame. I don't stand for that. I resist that. I go against that. We're not going with that. So now we got to dive into the fallacy of the fiat. The fallacy of the fiat. So as you see in this demonstration here, I'm gonna just go ahead and break it down anyway, but it's essentially showing you how the money works. And in the simplest term, right, this money that we have is not real. I want you guys to go take out your notes once again. Go look at the gold standard. Go look at how Nixon took us off of the gold standard. Go look at how Woodrow Wilson imposed this system of so-called education that we have. That the only 1% would get the liberal, what they would call liberal education. And go look at how the Rockefeller Foundation. Go look at how all these major corporations, compiled the education system. Think about this. Like, it goes deeper than what you guys, even want to accept. But I have to bring it to your attention. This fiat currency, this piece of paper, is fake. It means nothing. It means nothing. It has no value. It's not. What is it backed by? What is it backed by? The government, at the time I'm making this, I just learned, not too long, a couple hours ago in my research, that the government just did what? They approved for $15 billion to go to aid these immigration crises that they caused by having the borders open. $15 billion from 2024 to 25. One fiscal year. $15 billion. Where do we think this $15 billion came? I'm going to just, keep it blunt with you guys. They print that shit out of thin air. And you think that stacking up this current, it's supposed to mean something. I'm supposed to risk everything for this piece of paper and keep that piece of paper. Now, we do need that piece of paper as a means of exchange, just because that's the way the world functions. But we're going to take that piece of paper, and I teach you guys, get that piece of paper, most certainly, but get that piece of paper and go buy some lands. Get that piece of paper and go buy cryptocurrency. Get that piece of paper and go get something that is actually valuable with it, that will be a good store of value, because this currency is not that. They print that whenever they want to, and guess what? They bail out the banks. They bail out everyone else, but when we never get a bailout. We're subject to all of these things and have zero control over them, and everyone just sits around and acts like this is the way it's always been or something. This has only been going on for 100 years. If that. This has only been happening for 100 years. Our money has only been worth nothing for 100 years. When you go, rewind 100, 150 years, this type of currency was not being used. In fact, the currency was backed by something upon its original foundational creation. But I need you to understand, they switched it to fiat because fiat allows them to have complete control. And that is one of the fallacies that a lot of you guys believe in. Oh, if I just make 100,000 a month, I'm cool. Which, 100,000 a month, do you know how statistically rare that is? Do you know how many of you guys will actually be able to say, I made 100K this month? Like, this social media world has your mind all the way twisted and just all the way outside of what is actually going to transpire and what's not. Not saying that you guys can't. A lot of you guys can, but a lot of you guys are not going to pay the price to be able to make that. But even if you do make that, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean whenever they can decide one day, we're going to put 15 billion, more into circulation? Like, let's be real. Or they just decide they're going to print more. Like, we have no control over quantitative tightening and quantitative easing. Write that down. quantitative tightening and quantitative easing. You guys need to know about that interest rate that they decide. That when it's the easing time or when it's the tightening time, which comes in a cycle, and it's both. You're gonna have both, and it's a never-ending system. Inflation will never be fixed. Things will only become more. Money will only become less valuable over time. They're only able to maintain this because, number one, if we're talking about that U.S. currency, this westernized currency is that reserve currency. You know what I mean? So their currency is based off of the fact that if you refuse to use it, they're going to invade you, you know, and change your leader that agrees to using it. That's the reason why it has value for the most part, if we're just going to be 100% honest about it. Now, I want you guys to understand and also go do your research on the Federal Reserve, right? Go look at the Federal Reserve. Go look at when it was created. Go look at who actually owns it. Go look at the fact that, you know, these big banks are required to own stock. The only person that can own the stock, or only institutions rather that can own stock in the Federal Reserve, you know, and it's mandatory, is these big banks. These big banks and these big bankers have been in control since the creation of this currency. It's never changed. You know, and when you look at the roadmap that was laid out, you know, in the 20s and 30s, you know, you will see that, you know, they planned all this out then. They've been ahead of the game. And you guys got to understand what's going on so that you understand what I'm saying we got to escape from. We got to escape from this, because this is a fallacy. It's a facade. Don't listen to these internet gurus that just sit up there and tell you just make as much money as you possibly can. And that's all they tell you, right? That's a lie. That's a fallacy. And honestly, if you guys are planning on making 100,000, making 1 million, making 20 million, a lot of you guys, this is for the young men, so a lot of you guys are watching this and you're in your 20s. The statistical probability of you being a millionaire in your 20s is extremely rare. Not saying you can't do it. I believe in you guys. I believe in me. If I put my mind to something, I'm doing it. If you put your mind to something, you're doing it. But that will not be everyone's reality. So for us to come up with a plan, for me to tell you guys that the Great Escape means you got to make $1 million in your 20s, you know, I would be setting us up for failure. That would mean a small percentage of us escape, and that's not what it is that I'm facilitating. I'm facilitating a way for all of us. We are facilitating. It's a group effort. We need to facilitate a way that we can escape in mass numbers without having to all be millionaires, because that's not going to be realistic. I think that simply understanding what's happening will allow you to make decisions that prevent you from being caught up in the system of the cycle, because guess what? This system and cycle will be for the majority. It will be. That's a fact. You know, let's just accept the fact that everyone is not going to wake up. Most people want to believe the lies that they're told by this. Most people will reject this type of truth, and they will, you know, choose to believe in the fallacy and continue living their lives. So the system there will never be enough people to break this. They're going to further this into where they have complete control and domination. So, you know, that one sheep, right, that veers off from the pack, that one wolf that veers off from the pack, the shepherd, you know, won't care about that one. You know, if they got 1,000 others, you know, they're gonna be like, they won't even be noticed. So that's why I'm proposing. See, many of you guys don't understand that we can make a great escape and exist outside the confines of this while the mass majority are. Like, that's what my point is to you guys. That's what I'm telling you guys. That's what it is that we have to create and facilitate in this great escape. So if our money is not real, right, what is it? What is our currency backed by? What is it? What does this piece of paper mean? You are the currency. You are the currency. Do you understand that your social security number, they take on debts from nations outside of this one? If you're in the United States, or other countries do this too, but if they take on debt from other nations using you as the collateral, you are the currency. This piece of paper that you think that you don't really understand has no value. The only value that it has is that you will work for it. That's the only value that it has, like, at all, is that you're gonna work for it. So this piece of paper is a representation of the hours that you're willing to work. This piece of paper is what human labor looks like. It's human labor in the form of a note. That's what this currency is. They use your social security number to take on debt. They use you as the collateral. They've been using you since you were born to further this societal construct that will never benefit you. You are the currency. I need everyone to understand that you're the currency. They've been taking you on as collateral since the time you had a social security number. Like, really understand that. Also want you guys to understand, right, that they've gifted you with the illusion of inclusion. And I want you to understand that you've never owned anything, right? Unless you have land in a trust, unless you set things up with the proper legality, which we get into in The Great Escape, and that'll be a guide within of itself. But unless you're doing that, which most of you guys don't know about, you've never owned anything. Not one time have you ever owned anything. See, people live their whole lives, I'm paying this house off for 30 years, all of that, to never own anything. If you owned it, then why on God's green earth do you have to pay taxes? Why are taxes a thing when they print the money out of thin air anyway at this point? You got to pay property tax. You got to pay, for what you think you're paying for the house, right? But if you miss payments, or if you do something or don't pay the taxes, they'll come take it. That's how they've taken all the land that they've already taken from our people. If they've done so by our people don't understand, they got to put it in a trust and do all, so they'll leave it behind to their heirs, leave it behind to their children, but their children can't pay those taxes. They come and take it up off of them. It goes right back to the banks. It goes right back to the banks. The banks created this entire housing structure just to do what? To have more control over you. You've never owned anything unless you've stepped outside the confines of this societal construct. I need everyone to take notes on this and understand this, and don't take my word for it. Don't view this as my opinion. Go do some research about it yourself, and you will learn to find the truth. In fact, if you go far enough back in your lineage, do some genealogy. If you go far enough back in your lineage, more often than not, you will find that my great-great-grandfather owned a house. He owned acres of land. What happened? What happened? See, that's what they're counting on, right? They're counting on that you don't do stuff like that, that you don't understand this game that's being played, that you don't actually read. The forefathers thought our people would never be able to read. And for the most part, they're right. You guys know how to read, but do you really know how to read? Not really. You see, you got to understand that, and this will also be a guide within of itself. You got to understand that when the mediums of information is controlled, and that medium becomes the standard of where you go to get information, they know 99% of people will never go further than Google. Never will they say they went to get a real primary source, or they listen to individuals even that have real primary sources from books or from something that is a real primary source. The Library of Congress has, I think it's the #1 library in the world for primary sources. See, they know that people don't know how to do that stuff anymore. And for the most part, the forefathers were right whenever they thought that we would never be able to read, because you guys don't read. You guys go type some shit in Google, listen to what Google says. I can't tell you guys how many times I've told somebody something, right? I was just, because people, when you start living a certain type of life, I want you guys to understand that, people will try to figure out, why you are the way you are, why you carry yourself the way you do, or they'll just, they'll try to ask, and, I'll give information out. I'm not no kind of way about it when it comes to that, so I'll say what it is. Whatever it is what it is. I'm gonna say it, it's the truth. And the first thing they do, that ain't true. And I'm like, it is true. It came from this book, this person wrote it, this person experienced it. A real primary source, or a real document, government document, or something like that. They'll type that shit in Google. Google said this, so no, Google said this. Like, it's really sad, man. It's sad, but that goes back to this entire point. We're living in techno-feudalism whenever Google is the standard of information and nobody goes beyond that. Do you not understand how dangerous that is? How dangerous it is to have your standard for information be a controlled medium. I would much rather the standard for information be reading material, literature material, documents, and real primary sources. Yeah, it's harder. It's harder to figure things out, but at the end of the day, everyone's not being indoctrinated to the level when they make it easy. See, you should despise all things that are free. Despise it. Have you ever thought to yourself why you don't have to pay for something as convenient as Google's search engine? Have you guys ever thought about that? Like, think about, despise everything that is free. We're talking about the very same societal construct that makes you pay for things that even which they do not have the power to create. I went to, and this goes back to you never own anything, right? I went to the mountains, right? And I went to some of my real ancestral land. You know, that's where my ancestors were at, you know, in my lineage. And, you know, I go up to the mountains. This is North Carolina, Tennessee border. And I go up there, right? You know, I'm hiking. I park the Jeep. I'm hiking. You know, I have a good time. I come back to my car, and there's this note, you know, and I'm looking at this note, and it says on there, this is a courtesy notice. You didn't buy the parking tag that was required. Your vehicle information has to be written down. Next time you come up here, you know, you have to go pay $40 or you'll be fined $80. You have to get a fishing license also to fish. You have to get a hunting license to hunt. You have to give them all of your information, and they give you permission to fish in water where they did not create the water, they did not create the land, they did not create the fish. God created all of that. The Great Spirit created all of that. The creator of this universe created all of those things. So who gave them the right to regulate something that they did not create? Who gave that to them? Now, I understand wanting to have certain rules in place, maybe. But, I mean, once again, who gave them the credit to make these rules? I mean, rather, who gave them the authority to make these rules? We're talking people that make these rules that have never even spent the day in the shoes of us. You know what I mean? They've never even done that. So for them to make rules about what we can and cannot do is absurd. And I wouldn't even be opposed to, I guess, you know, if you got to give information to do these things and they want to have a database or whatever, I don't agree with that, but that's more reasonable, you know, to understand. But no, they want your information and you got to pay them. How in the fuck does it make sense to you guys to think that we have to pay them? Why are we paying them for something they did not create? They did not create any of that. It's absurd, man. Like, it's absurd. I thought that's what our taxes were for. You feel what I'm saying? Like, this is absurd, and we just willingly just, oh, I'm gonna just go with this, right? And but that goes into my next point, though, right? The chemical warfare. Why are so many people why are the men docile? The men just go with this, like, oh, it is with, like, they have no fight in them at all. I rarely come across a man that has some fight in him. Shout out to some of the older men at my gym. Shout out to some of the men that I've just came across in my real life. And of course, shout out to, you know, the Great Escape tribe, you know, because we resist all of that. And why are we able to do so? Because we have testosterone. That's just a fact. You know, people don't understand that your level to resist and go against the grain and your testosterone level is a direct correlation. That doesn't mean that a person with high testosterone is going to be intellectual, but that does mean a person with a high testosterone is able to have their own ideas if they so choose. You see, a lot of you guys aren't even in the position to have your own ideas or go against the grain, because why? Your testosterone levels are so low that it is sad. And why that was designed to happen to us. They did that to our people too. They did that to us. To the young men that's walking around looking like this. The young men that look like this, man. This is the average life of a 18 to 25-year-old right now. It's sad. You're walking around holding, trying to, if you go outside or something like that, or let's say we catch somebody at a outside swimming or something like that. They take their shirt off and they over there sitting like this. Trying to hide the fact that they got breasts. Let's think about this. How do we think that this is normal? like I can't be the only one that's sitting here like this is so far from normal. Like, no. I mean, even when I think about me, like I'm young right now, I'm a young man, but even when I was a kid, you know what I mean, which was some years ago, of course, but wasn't that long ago in the big scheme of the world. When I was a kid, I did not have this. I did not have that. And yet that's the standard now, though. That's the standard. This is the average, right? And that's sad. And I'm talking about kids. Not we're not even in the adulthood, but even the adults. The data will show you. Now, it's hard to find some of this data. I'm gonna just keep it real with y'all. For those of y'all that aren't real researchers, but you could just take my word for it on this one, because you could go outside right now and just see how feminine these people act, man. It's absurd how feminine it is. In the gym the other day, I was working out, and I'm getting to the point now. I can't do commercial gyms. I already couldn't do Planet Fitness. I couldn't go there. But it's getting to the point now where I can't fuck with stuff like Golds or stuff. It's to the point now where I'm just like, what, I'll build a home gym, and have it outside. That'd be a better setup anyway. But it's to the point now where like I can't even go to Golds, because man, I was in Golds, right? And I'm just warming up, my lats, with the lat pull down. I'm just warming them up, and I'm finna hit that bench heavy. And I look over, like I'm positioned in front of the setup where all the dumbbells is at, and then you got the mirrors. So the machine that I'm pulling down on with this rope to hit my lats real quick, I'm kind of facing them, like they're like that way, I'm like this. And so I look over, man, and it's this full grown man, and he's, by full grown, I mean he's no older than 26, and he's not skinny at all. I mean, you could tell, he works out, but I'm looking at him. I'm forced to look at him rather, because he's damn near directly in front of me. And you know how you see girls sometimes, and it look like they ain't got no pants on. It's because like they probably got on them biker shorts or whatever, or just really short shorts, and their shirt go lower than them shorts, so it don't look like they got no pants on. That's what this man looked like. This full grown man. And then I kid you guys not, he pulled it up. You know how the woman will man, some of y'all that go to the gym, y'all know what I mean. Like a girl will tuck in the back of her pants, right? When it comes down to if she got some biker shorts on, when she hitting them RDLs or just squats, she'll tuck in the back of her pants. I don't know what the reason for that is. I've heard a lot of different girls give different reasons for that. I think they do it just because they want to show their ass, but I mean, it is what it is. But this full grown man just did that, and I'm like, usually it used to be when I was younger, shit like that was funny, just kind of like a comical moment, like what world am I living in? But like this wasn't even funny. I was like, what's going on? And this is probably his life. This right here is probably why he might not have the breast, but all of this other stuff is a part of his mentality, man. So, and this is the sad reality, man. They poison us with the food. They poison your minds. It's just chemical warfare through and through, right? They weaken your mind so much so that they castrate you physically through the food, through the water, through the I'm gonna get to that in a minute, because I can't say the word, because you know how they get. but they castrate you on a chemical level physically. You might as well have just cut your balls off. For a lot of you guys, you might as well just give them up, because you don't it's like you damn near you don't have them anyway, and then on a mental level, they make sure that your mind is never strong enough to realize what's happening to you. They do that through stuff like this. They do that through stuff like this, where they're constantly indoctrinating you. And guess what? Tying back into techno-feudalism, they profit off of you viewing anything on there. A fact. Now, let's take a look at some data here. As you can see here, this is a chart for the male partners. I'm gonna just put it like that, because they don't like certain words. But see, and like I said, it's hard to find like charts on it, but it's a lot of articles and a lot of good primary sources that are actually showing you how levels have dropped about a 2 to 3% range. They drop annually every year, but over from the 90s to now, it's at least a 30 to 35% decline in the overall levels. And so when you look at this right here, it shows us that damn near 30% of men haven't, been with haven't been with anybody. And so many people wonder, why is the red pill so popular? This is why it's so popular. It's so popular because it gives them a reason other than saying and looking in the mirror and looking at everything I just said, and they refute, because it's not even about the money. I mean, I would hope you guys would know that it's not about how much money you make when it comes to that, for the most part. So yeah, that could help you with that, but that's not a necessity. In fact, if you're focused on getting the money, you're gonna get, the time that you have to do that is less. But this is just proving my point as far as, why we're walking around like this, man. No assertiveness, no you try to shake a hand, the handshake, man. I kid you not, I went to shake a young kid's hand probably like not too long ago, probably a month ago, and like it was no, like when I say no firmness, none at all, like none. I'm talking about like that, what I mean, like no type of firmness. And so the reasoning for that, or the reason for this rather, is stuff like that, and I also went to the gym, right, and I'm proving that they're doing stuff to us on a biological level, right? Now, half of that, of course, is because they don't want you to go against anything, but the other half of that is because it's more profitable. If they can fill it with nonsense, the corporations make more profit on the products. I know a lot of you guys have probably seen how different countries have better regulated food products from the same company, from the same corporation, which is absurd. But look, I was in the gym also another time, and I ran into this guy who was 30, and he would told me how the doctor put him on some of this test, and put him on some of it because his levels were dropping. And essentially what it sounded like the doctor was saying to me was it was because of the food he had been eating and the alcohol he had been drinking and his lifestyle up until that point. But he was 30 years old, though. He was young. After taking this, I kid you not, it was like a whole different person. Like a whole different person. A whole, his world was 10 times better. Existence was 10 times better. We don't need that to do that, though, is my point. We especially, we're talking about in our 20s, but yeah, the test levels decreased 2 to 3% annually. And so that also goes into this right here, man. They have been poisoning you from birth. From birth. And the problem is you can't even sue these corporations for that. By law, you cannot sue them. There's no legal course of action. And the reality is this: it affects our people more than any other people. It affects our people, our men, more than anything. And, I'm grateful that, I didn't get a lot of maybe what you guys might have gotten, right? I didn't. I'm grateful that, I was allergic, and that goes to show how illogical this is for most of these, damn near all of them, is, man, my arm would swell up. It would swell up like the size when I was a kid. It would to the size it is now, right here. The size my shoulder is now, right here, when on the kid's frame. From any of these, and so it was established at a young age. I just couldn't get the different seasonal one of these that they give you, and so I didn't get it. I never got the most recent one either. I've never gotten any of that. So I believe that these things are poisoning us, man. It's contributing to that downfall. And, it's something that we got to be conscious of. And I'm just giving you guys a completed guide and picture as to what we're escaping from, right? And mind you, I am not telling you guys that that we can combat this. Like how, and I don't understand why a lot of it just distrust anyone that does tell you that. Distrust anyone that tells you, okay, we can fill out this piece of paper and we're going to be sovereign and do this and that, or we can do this and fight back and do that and fight back. Then more often than not, these are plants that are trying to also lead you astray. We cannot combat this. We can exist outside of this. That's what I'm telling you. We can exist outside of this, but to try to combat this, because here's the issue with combating this. You will have individuals within this that will die to defend it. You will have too many people that will die to defend this to even be worth our time. People I don't care about. I'm just going to keep it real with you. I don't care about people that are too weak or too afraid to embrace the truth. I could care less about what their fate is. They chose what they chose. I'm here for those of you guys that want to survive. And you guys are here to help us all survive. We got to band together, build this tribe up so that we can all survive. We're here for the real, living a real life, a real free life. That's what we're aiming for. And the question really becomes, how do they weaponize these things right here? How do they constantly weaponize them to really do damage to our people, but do damage to all men? But really, I'm focused on our men, though, really do damage to the men that look like me and you. How do they do that? How are they continually creating things? How was the most recent how was the most recent breakthrough that we had a couple years ago, which everyone should know what I'm talking about, of this right here? How did that delete more of our people than anyone else? How is that? How is it they were having commercials, right, that our people were at risk? How did it become weaponized to attach to melanin? This type of stuff right here. So many of our people fall victim to this right here. And it's really a shame. Like, first of all, do your genealogy. I'm gonna say it again. Do your genealogy, because this is not real. First of all, it's not real. And I know I'm saying do your genealogy. Most of you guys aren't gonna do it. That's fine. That's fine. If you're not gonna do it, that's fine. But don't do this. If you're not gonna do genealogy, that's fine. You want to believe what you want to believe about your past. I mean, that's on you. I'll say this though: respect your ancestors. Even if you don't want to figure out who they were, that's fine. But respect them, and you respect them by being and making this great escape, by being the best you can be, by making sure that your bloodline is one that can exist outside of this, and you have different tools and mindsets to get away from this and live a life that your ancestors would have lived. That's what you must do. You don't want to do genealogy, that's fine. But don't do this. Why? Because first of all, DNA cannot determine, or rather their understanding of our DNA does not determine and cannot determine where your ancestors came from. That's a fact. Now, I could spend an hour just talking about that, but it's so many people that have talked about that. So, I mean, I want you guys to go, just do some basic, look, I'm gonna just tell you guys one person, 'cause I'm gonna give credit where credit is due. You know what I mean? One of the sources for this was Dane Calloway. Y'all go look at him and go look at what he has to say about this. He breaks it down amongst many other people that break it down, and Ancestry.com breaks it down for you also, and tell you that, you know, it's not accurate. And when you look at, you know, who owns this, you know, the path of truth will light up and be a blazing fire of leading straight to the truth of what it is that's going on here. But this is how they do that type of stuff. Now, I theorize, my personal opinion here, I theorize that they're looking for a certain bloodline as well. They're looking for certain bloodlines within specific groups of people, and that's half of it. Now, another half of it, I believe that they are using this to, you know, make their tools of control more efficient against us. So the more, and see, I say that they're doing it to us because this was promoted the most to our people. You know, this right here, in addition to the hundreds, or rather the 10 other companies that do the same, corporations that do the same thing, were marketed more to who? They have corporations that their goal, they have our apparently our type of names in their corporation name. It was marketed to us, to our people. They wanted our DNA for what? Because they can't tell you where you came from with it. So what are they doing with it? When you look into the fine prints of this, they can do whatever they want with it. They are giving this information to the same corporations, the conglomerate of corporations that are making these tools of control against us. And you guys want to just give to that. No, you know, reject that. And just to speak a little bit on DNA, like why would you safeguard your DNA? Like what can they do with it for the ignorant ones who have that type of mindset? I got this straight from the tribe. You know, this was a post that I made within the tribe, and I'm gonna just read it out to you guys. So, your junk DNA is not junk. Your genetic code is the expression of the power and answers your ancestors already found. This is why eating foods without chemical GMO poisoning, without working out with intention rather, and seeking to be an intellectual man is important. These steps will put you in the best position to unlock this information. Now, when we dive into DNA, now this is outside of what I wrote. I didn't write this. This is studies that you can look up, real studies that exist. Nearly half of our DNA has been written off as junk DNA. This disregards evolution. You know, sidelined or broken genes, viruses that got, you know, all of that nonsense that they thought it was, but you know, that's false. But the research over the last decade has shown that some of this genetic dark matter does have a function primarily in regulating the expression of host genes, a mere 2% of our total genome that code for proteins. So essentially, right, they're saying within this that this so-called junk DNA is responsible for what gene, because I did further research, it's just what I put on the tribe as a post, but it's essentially proposing that, you know, the gene, there's a reason why certain genes get expressed and why others don't. You know, you might have the gene to be 6'8", but for whatever reason it didn't, you know, come into fruition, it did not become expressed. There is a mechanism that they have found within the junk DNA that is responsible for this different expression of genes. Understand that. Also understand that memories themselves can be passed down in your bloodline, not through the DNA necessarily, but more through the molecules, or, you know, I'm not entirely sure what they're saying was on with that. I haven't dove into that too much, but I did see that as well. But you guys can do your own research and see what it is that I'm saying. But here's the most important part, right? It is estimated that 1 gram of DNA can hold up to 215 petabytes of information. Although this number fluctuates as different research term breaks new grounds in testing the upper storage limit of DNA. So assuming the Avengers Endgame movie is 720 PhD takes up 6 gigabytes. You can store 36 million copies of the movie in 1 gram of DNA. 1 gram. So the question becomes, and this is just one study. Now they've already, it says here that by 2025 they're aiming to be able to utilize DNA as a upgraded version of storage, as you know, that's a big problem given that, you know, the digital world is taking over. So everything requires computing power. So, you know, we need more storage, and they've already took DNA, uploaded stuff to that DNA, uploaded it to computer, back to the DNA. They've already done that. And you guys want to say we have something called junk DNA, or you guys want to just give your DNA up? That is absurd for you to think that you should do that whenever they've already been able to understand that you can store, you know, information that you can pull up on a computer from your DNA. So with that being said, you know, one would ask, okay, well, how far does your DNA go back then? Utilizing the estimate that they've given here in this research, which could be a whole lot more, but just current research shows that about 13 billion years of information can be stored in your DNA, in a person's DNA, and you guys want to give that up. That's absurd. So, you know, the question becomes, okay, now what do we do? You know, we understand, you know, what's going on here. We have stuff to research, but what does that mean, right? You know, what's this great escape about? You know, all of that. So look, to make the great escape, you must take the alternate path. I'm gonna say it again. To make the great escape, you must take the alternate path. Now, the alternate path is a full guide within of itself, and it's on the channel right now.